Welcome to the Kelly Cardenas podcast, where attitude is everything. On today's show, I'm very excited. These guys sat in uncomfortable silence, staring at each other and staring at me while the music ran. But I've been chasing these guys down for a little bit, and they have, I think, not only one of the coolest products in the world that's coming out, but also I think that their story as individuals is the most important thing for me. I believe in all of sales. It's not about selling the actual product; it's about selling the people. And you're going to find that these two young men are, the things that people say about them when they're not there are so very important. And they have one of the greatest, I believe, and revolutionary products on the market that's coming out, which is actually the first cordless blow dryer. And I've been waiting for this. I was a hairdresser. I've been a hairdresser for 29 years. Every woman that I talk to wants this. And I have people all over my network that are constantly asking me about when these two were going to be on the show. So I want to introduce and bring onto the show Jonathan Friedman, the co-founder and president of Volo Beauty, and Ryan Goldman, the co-founder and CEO of VoloBeauty.com. Welcome to the show, guys.
Thanks for having us, Kelly.
Thanks for having us. Great to be here.
Right
yeah,
on.
we were looking forward to it.
So let's jump right in, right? I want to cordless blow dryer. I joked earlier with you, Jonathan, said that I had one before and it was a gas powered one, and I would pull it. It hurt my arm to pull it and it was too loud. Talk to us about this and why is this so important?
Sure. Yeah, I could start it off a little bit of my background. I've been in the beauty business my entire life. My family business, Empire Beauty Supply, was founded in San Diego in 1945 by my grandfather on my dad's side. So as an infant, growing up in the industry, seeing it evolve, growing the business, Empire Beauty Supply, with my family, my parents, my dad, who's my absolute mentor. I can talk a little bit about him, and my two brothers and my mom. We built what started as my grandfather schlepping on the streets, selling hardly anything in a van, to expanding to a 21-store retail beauty supply store chain and salon. And I guess kind of fast forward, working in the industry for 25 years and seeing the evolution of beauty products and electronics. I was walking through one of my salons one day and just recognized cords hanging out all over the salon stations. And I know you're familiar with that, many of you hairdressers out there. And then also just seeing it at home, the unsightly cords hanging out, and my wife with the tangled cords. And it just dawned on me one day, why not solve this problem and make a cordless hairdryer? And that was about 7 years ago. So so fast forward, here we are on your podcast, and we're excited to announce the unveiling. We did it and we brought this to market. So thanks for having us. And that's my 101 story there. So Jonathan, you could take it from there.
Sure. So I'm not a beauty industry expert until Volo. I was in manufacturing and technology. I did a bunch of startups, raising money, and products have always been a passion throughout. Products and technology have always been a passion throughout my career. So Ryan, who's a longtime friend of mine, approached me about this idea, and I was like, man, that sounds intriguing. We didn't know what we didn't know. We didn't know how hard it was to do this and how much power a dryer consumes. And we went through a period where we were told it couldn't be done over and over and over again. But we kept moving forward, and a huge turning point for us was when we came across infrared bulb technology. And I'll turn on the dryer real quick. So this is our dryer, which is available for sale on our website. But I'll turn it on, and you're going to see these bulbs light up.
That just sounded like a airplane was taking off, but I know you were doing it right into the microphone there, which is good.
I can just leave it on for the rest of the interview, or just when Ryan's talking, whatever you want.
Yeah, that'd be great. But so Jonathan and I, we've been longtime friends for for over 10 years. And, kind of going back to what I was saying, when I came up with this crazy concept, it was really about, I have a beauty background. It was really about trying to figure out how to do this, understanding the constraints. It's a lot of engineering and, using high-powered batteries and so forth. And so Jonathan, having an engineering background, which he could speak to a little bit, he seemed like, somebody that was not only eager and a perfect fit, as we come from, beauty to engineering. And we sort of hit the ground running. We became co-founders, and and we're stoked to be where we are today.
Well, let me talk to you. Let me ask you about this too. Because I think one of the biggest things in any partnership is it's like a marriage, right? And a lot of people don't realize this. They think, oh, wow, this person's got a skill set. I have a skill set. So everything's going to work out. Can you talk to us a bit about the partnership? And Ryan, why did you trust Jonathan? Because, I mean, when it's different to be your friend than to go into business. Once you go into business, things change. So can you talk to us a little bit about that and things that you were looking for and things that you saw in Jonathan early on that helped you to know, okay, cool, I could trust this guy?
Well, I just flipped a coin. I thought it was either going to work or not, but with Jonathan. No, we'd been friends for a while. Jonathan and I worked out the same gym in San Diego, and after we'd work out, we'd sit down and, we'd actually work at the gym. There was a little cafe where, we'd kind of spend our days in the afternoons working, and we'd talk a little bit about each other's backgrounds. And I was just sort of starting this, starting the cordless hairdryer concept, and was starting to raise some money and was talking to some smart people in the community. So I was really, I was actually very careful about who I was speaking to about this, because it was something that hadn't been done before, and I was very protective. And literally sat down with Jonathan one day, just knowing his background, his education, what he's done. He's had multiple startups. He's worked, on supply chain, and all the things that I heard him talk about his industry, and we would just share industry stories. It just seemed like a really good fit. And so when I shared this idea with him, he kind of came on as sort of a mentor in terms of startup, because I'd come from a family business that I had a stake in the ground and I grew, but to start something from nothing, Jonathan had done that in the past. And so, that's really what kind of sparked this relationship, and it was really cool. And it just, it really grew from there, because he had a completely different skill set that, it just paired so well.
But help me with this, Ryan, because the things that you were talking about, I mean, I completely understand them, and I think that they're right on. But what were the things that help you to trust him as a human being? Because, I mean, you could see someone who has a skill set. You could see that part of it. Was it that he could bench more than you in the gym? Was he hitting the weights harder than you? Were you crushing him?
I'm way stronger.
Okay, way stronger. Got it. So you were like, good, because I could overpower this dude.
It was like you said, like a marriage or like a relationship. It was kind of a day by day thing, and he sort of started at a small level, and had some really incredible advice. He got me, he was involved with an incubator in San Diego called EvoNexus, and he invited me to a few EvoNexus events, and I just sort of became involved in this sort of startup world with him, and he really sort of brought me into it with no pressure whatsoever. And knowing him as a friend, I've worked with a lot of people in the beauty industry, and I kind of, I've had at times over 100 employees. I've hired a lot of people that, and team built in San Diego for a long time. And, having that background and, just kind of understanding, Jonathan's background and where he came from, that trust came pretty quickly. And it was just a feeling, man. And I think hopefully it's mutual.
So
Jonathan.
and Ryan, let me ask you this. What was something that you watched him when he didn't know you were watching, that you saw something that he did that didn't have to do with business, didn't have to do with education, but you saw him do it and you were like, that kind of almost solidifies? Because, we'll watch people, and I've watched my buddy Greg, his name is Greg Reed. And I've watched the way in which he reacts and interacts with his son. And because of that, I knew I could trust him in business.
Sure.
So was there anything
Yeah,
like
no,
that you saw?
I would say not something that, yeah, but I mean, one of the things I observed early on is, having my background in beauty industry is I was really starting to tap my networks of the people that I've known. I'll just name Helen of Troy as a brand that we've sold for years and distributed. And I reached out to Jerry Rubin, who is the founder of Helen of Troy. And then he introduced me to Michael Cafaro, who was his right-hand man for many years. And when I engaged with these guys, I sort of brought Jonathan into these calls, and he had no, he didn't have the beauty background, so to speak. But when he would speak to Michael, who was one of their lead R&D quality control, I mean, he has over 30 patents. The way Jonathan sort of took over the conversation with Michael when I couldn't really speak to, what it takes to build a hairdryer, engineering or supply chain, he just swooped right in. And that's what really made, me realize that he's sort of, he's my Robin.
That's amazing, man. So Jonathan, on the flip side of it, you come from a manufacturing background, you've been in the startup world, things like that. What made you trust Ryan coming from the beauty space? Because a lot of times people in the tech world or in business in general, when they look at the professional beauty industry, I've dealt with this for 29 years, they don't look at it the same way. So what made you trust and what made you want to be involved with this?
Well, I look at business opportunities, startup opportunities with a lens of, is it a good idea? Is it a great idea? Right? Is it a huge market? Yeah. Does the person do we have an access to a customer base, like right off the bat? Like, and Ryan has had 20 stores. And he also had a very wealthy investor who was really excited about it. So all these things were like lining up, bink, bink, bink. But most importantly Ryan is a great guy. And anybody who knows him will say the same thing. And we always got along. He is one of those people that people are drawn to. He's got sort of this magnetic personality, and we just always have fun. So I was like, look, if we're gonna go, like you said, into this marriage, you want to be able to be with somebody that you're gonna have fun with, and we've had fun all along the way. There's definitely been times when we've had to stop and say, okay, we need to have a business conversation right now about this, that, or the other thing. And it hasn't always been easy. We've definitely had, times where we gotta have to like work through things. But one thing that's consistent is it's always been mutual respect. Like even if we gotta hash it out, it's with respect for each other. And then along the way, man, we've been through so much personal stuff. When I started this business with Ryan, I was married, and through the course of the last 5 years, I got divorced, and Ryan was there through some of those crazy moments and other crazy family stuff that we've both endured, and tragedy and just like war, man. Like we've just been each other's back. We've had each other's back throughout this whole thing. And I saw that from day one in Ryan. Like he was not only going to be a good business partner, but he was going to be a good friend.
Well,
that's awesome.
Talk to us too, because it was intriguing with you guys' story, because most people look at this beautiful blow dryer that you just showed on the screen. You can show it again. The beautiful blow dryer. I mean, it's not only super functional, but it's sexy as can be. But also, a little bit of feedback. Are you guys getting feedback
Ryan,
too?
It might be Ryan. Ryan tends to be the one who.
No. Is that better?
Let's see. It might be me. So with you guys, what I noticed is like people could look at your blow dryer, right? They could look at your concept now, and now it's starting to take off. Everybody's wanting it. Literally, like every single person I talk to about it, they're wanting the product. It's the product right now in the professional beauty space. But it wasn't always that way. And when people, like especially Instagram or Snapchat, whatever it is, kids are out there and they're like, yo, I'm going to develop a product, and they think they're going to turn into Jonathan and Ryan today. Can you talk to those people out there about some of the things that you have to go through to be able to get to the point where you're at right now?
Sure.
Absolutely. Yeah, go ahead, Ryan. You start.
I'll start it, and I can kind of let Jonathan, chime in. Um, you know, I sort of jumped into this because I saw an opportunity, and you're not always like you said. I jumped into this, not willy nilly. I jumped into it with a passion because I knew that in doing so, I was going to have to forego, my career with Empire. I knew at some point, just speaking with my mentor, his name is Steve Altman. When I jumped in early on and he put in the first dollars in this company, I recognized, and he told me, he said, "Who's going to run this company? You have a full time job." And I realized then, like, this is serious, and it's all in. And for a while, I tried to feather both, and there was a turning point when I realized, like, I have to do this. I have to jump, and that meant no salary. That meant a lot of scary times and risk. But I believed in this company, and I believed in our vision. And I have to say that Jonathan, who's done the startup, been in the startup world, has read a lot of books. He's been to a lot of conferences. He's watched a lot of great YouTube videos that a lot of things he shared with me that sort of helped guide me through this process. And so I think, and the other thing was, I couldn't have done this alone. I needed a co-founder, and obviously Jonathan was more than a great fit, but he helped because he's been there. He really helped me through a lot of what he's read and studied. And it's about perseverance. And he said something to me early on. He's like, that workout where you have those pegs and you're climbing that wall. He sent me that. Gosh, that's been since we just started, 5-6 years ago. I remember him sending that, and that's in my head almost every day when I wake up, because it's about perseverance. It's about working with your partner and your team and never stopping, man. And a lot of sacrifice. So, and Jonathan has been, more than a great co-founder, but a great guide and personal, friend as well along the way.
Thanks, buddy. So to add on to your question there, Kelly, number one, as Ryan mentioned, and I've done this. I've started and started a startup by myself. It is a lonely and potentially disastrous road when you're trying to do this without anybody else. And so having Ryan by my side and us having each other was critical. So that'd be one piece of advice. The other thing is make sure you love what you're doing. You love the product. If you're just coming up with an idea because you think you can sell something and make a lot of money, but you're not really passionate about it the way we are, you're gonna be bummed out because you're going after something you don't truly care about, you don't truly love. And then the other thing is you have to, at some point, fully commit. I mean, when I say fully commit, like put it on the line. If you think you're going to just sort of do something on the side and, kind of somehow make it pop, be prepared for that I don't think you'll be successful. At some point, you really have to sort of jump in, no safety net, no plan B. You got to go for it. And then, the other thing is it's a marathon. A lot of people think they can just do something, turn around, get rich quick, or put it up on Amazon, and all of a sudden they're going to be getting checks every month. It's just not the case, man. You got to grind, and it takes a while. You can have the greatest product in the world, but it will take a while to get people to know that it's there, to get people through that buying decision, no matter how great of a product it is. So, you got to really sit there and treat it like a marathon. It's not a sprint.
Well, the question I have for both of you guys is, there's a lot of people out there that are listening that they hear startup all the time. Startup is a sexy word nowadays. It didn't used to be back in the day, but nowadays startup is sexy, entrepreneur is sexy. And generally in a startup type of situation, there's funding that goes on, and that funding creates pressure. Can you talk to us about the pressure that happens once you take on, say you take on your first angel, right?
Yeah.
And can you break these things down for a person who doesn't understand startup, doesn't understand angel, doesn't understand bridge funding, doesn't understand the first raise? Can you break it down in common terms for a person to understand this?
Yeah, I'd say it, when you start off, raising capital, which when I started this, I'd never done before. You're reaching out to friends and family, and it weighs heavy on you. But what's happening is they're believing in you. They're believing in Jonathan and I. And so, that literally, I think about all those investors and all those friends and family and mentors and people that have helped me and believed or helped us. And, it's heavy. And that's really what drives you. I mean, that's what continues not to just push you to develop this product, but, these guys are relying on you, but they're also cheering you on. They're rooting for you. But it's a heavy deal. I mean, honestly, it's heavy, but it really does inspire me and Jonathan and I every day, understanding that, with every victory, to send out an email or an update to our investors that like, hey guys, guys and gals, we did it. Or when we had a prototype that was working. I mean, it's just all you want to do is try to please them and give them good information, but it's not always good information. You have to share the good and the bad, which is tough, but pass it on to Jonathan. I know you.
Yeah, and one thing I think a lot of early entrepreneurs, a mistake they make is they want to keep all the equity. And a piece of advice I got a long time ago was you would rather own a smaller percentage of something that's worth a lot than a huge percentage of something that's worth nothing. And the lens that you want to look at your investors with is you're all in the same boat. So you want to be generous in terms of, hey, if they're believing in you and you got nothing besides a piece of paper or a plastic prototype or whatever, they deserve to get a big payback. They're believing in you. They're putting in their money to, and so be generous. Like don't get all worried about every little percentage point or the terms, and be happy for them when you do start to make progress. You do start to convert their note into real equity, and they got incredible, terms because of the valuation cap or whatever. You should be happy for that. And same thing as with your employees. Like, give them options. Like, be generous with the options. Give that equity to the people that are supporting you through this whole thing. So that would be, something a lot of people. And they also are very proprietary about their idea, right? They're like, oh, I don't want to tell anybody. But really, if it's a good idea, it's probably hard to do. Like, and there came a point with our cordless hairdryer where we're like, you know what? You want to go try to make a cordless hairdryer? Go for it.
Go for it.
Go for it. See how far you get, because it's so hard that you got to stop being all cagey about every little proprietary thing. I mean, obviously you want to set the right protection in motion with provisional patents and all that stuff, but more importantly, you want to vet your idea. You want to get it in front of people that are smart, and you want to continually test and pressure test whether you have a market fit.
So why would a person, when you were saying, you went through it quickly, but I want to go back to that point of, you were saying, the choice of having a lot of something small or a little piece of something large. How do you know when your idea is something that you're going to raise for, as opposed to you just going out and bootstrapping it and then moving on from that point?
Well, every situation is different, right? If you've, invested in cryptocurrency and you're sitting on $1.5 million and can self-fund your startup, by all means, go do that. I think more commonly with first-time entrepreneurs or entrepreneurs that haven't hit a home run, it is not just good to get money, but it's also good to get smart money. It's good to get money from people that can support you, that can help you out along the way. And you're not draining your kids, college fund. You're getting other people to help you. Of course, they want to see you put a little skin in the game, and that's all fair. But I would say that raising money is more than just the money. It's also, you've got people that are pulling for you when things aren't going so well, or you need another round of capital, and they see the progress that you're making, and then they say, yeah, no, we believe in you. You're doing fine. Keep going.
How about yourself, Ryan, when you're looking at it? And Jonathan, this is just a thing. When you're close to the screen, the feedback is nothing. So when you come back and forth out of it, it does. So you don't have to be super close inside of it, but when you go back and forth, it does. Ryan, talk to us about this. Why did you choose to go the venture capital route as opposed to bootstrapping?
I knew it was going to take a lot of money. I mean, this is something this is a technology that's a first of a kind technology. And I mentioned my early mentor Steve Altman, when I first sat down with him with one of the worst pitches ever. It was just from the heart, and I literally went in with a cordless drill and a hairdryer, and I just started talking. I had no history in pitches or pitch decks. I just kind of went in with everything. And this guy he's had an incredible career, and I really I value his advice, and he sort of helped guide me to this point where he said, okay, I'll help you out, and let me see, let me make a few phone calls. And the initial few phone calls were to some product development firms that he's worked with his years at Qualcomm. And one of these firms in particular was, they're a state-of-the-art, world-class firm. They've made incredible electronics that are household names. And I shared this idea with them, and they came back with what this would cost, and it blew me out of my chair. And basically that was when I had no name. We had nothing. It was all we had was an idea. And so we sat down with these guys, and they agreed to take on this project. And what they sent me was about $1 million. It was about $1 million to develop this thing. And when I read through the contract, and at the time, this is when I was really kind of started to work with Jonathan. We were reading through and I was actually thrilled that these guys were willing to take on this project. Make a cordless hairdryer, and they only do so many projects a year. And so when I got sticker shock at what it would cost to develop it, and talking with Jonathan and Steve and talking this over, it was like that's what it takes. And I talked to some other friends of mine that are neighbors, and an attorney friend of mine. He's a patent attorney. I shared this with him too, and he said, this is what I've seen. This is what this costs. You're biting off a big one. You're not just developing a new shampoo or a conditioner. This is going to cost millions of dollars to develop, and a lot of time and a lot of patience. And so that's really why I had to, we had to strap it on and raise. We raised 3 seed rounds, and then just recently, a year ago, closed a Series A round, which has really helped us get to this point where we're now selling this dryer. So yeah, it takes capital.
Let me ask you this, Jonathan, as as a young kid, right? So what we're talking, when we're talking about this, we're talking about millions, millions of dollars to be able to do. When Ryan's talking about it, you're shaking your head and you're like, yeah, it was with that first million, bro. Like it's going to be a lot more. Like let's take it back to young Jonathan. When did you start getting comfortable with the type of numbers that you're talking about? The more and more you're around them, the more comfortable you get. We all know that part of it. But when did this start for you? Because, or was there a time where you thought like, hey, if I had $1 million, I'm out? Where today you have $1 million, you're like, we're just getting started.
Yeah.
Yeah, no. Well, I guess when I was a kid, I just had this dream of building and running a business. I just had this sort of vague concept that I wanted to do that. I had an uncle who said, you're never going to make any money if you're working for somebody else. That was like his words of wisdom. He's like, you got to have equity. You got to own a piece of the business. So my career, was really driven towards that point. But the flip side is I needed to make some money. So I started off in a more typical fashion, working for big companies. But eventually I found an opportunity to buy a company here in San Diego, a contract manufacturing company, with the help of some investors that believed in me. And we did a leveraged buyout with a lot of debt of a manufacturing company that makes medical device parts and components that go into aerospace and things like that up in San Marcos. So that's how I came to San Diego 14 years ago. And that's when you start to see the numbers that you're talking about, where it's like, okay, this business, cost X millions to buy, and you just start getting comfortable with it. And then, some time went on. I did that for about 6 years and kind of exited that and started a software company, again, raising money, to build something and getting comfortable with, people writing checks for $100,000, $200,000, and asking your friends and your family to believe in you and believe in this vision that you have. And yeah, it adds up, and all of a sudden there's $1 million, and you're valuing your company at $5 or $10 million, and you just start to get comfortable with that. But it's always a challenge to get that money in. A lot of people are like, "Oh my gosh, sounds great! I love it." But then when it comes to actually getting them to write that check, it is a whole nother thing. You'd be amazed at how hard it is to extract that from people that are fully like, yeah, for sure. But
Yeah.
yeah, no, we did it, and we did. We raised 3 rounds of angel funding for Volo, and then we did the big Series A. And yeah, and we're continuing to look at ways to fuel the business now that we have products that are available. And by the way, I will add, because I know you've been kind of asking about things that startup people that are listening should keep in mind. We recognized early on that it was going to take a while to make this dryer. Just a lot of engineering, molds, plastic injection, and all that stuff. So about halfway through, about 3 years ago, we're like, hey, we need to make some money. We need to actually sell stuff and get revenue. Like, it's just, we got to do it. It's just, this is. So we came up with a hair we saw some white space in that sort of section, and we looked at all the towels that are out there, tried them all, and they were all kind of like had their weak spots. Nothing was really great. So we looked at different fabrics that were out available and didn't like any of those either. So we actually engineered our own fabric, and we engineered and designed our own hair towel. And that was 3 years ago. And now this thing has completely taken off. It is in retailers all over the country, like Bloomingdale's, Bluemercury, Anthropologie, Free People, Urban Outfitters. It's
We
on
just got
Amazon.
an Allure. We got an Allure best of 2020 award, which was a huge feat for us. We're stoked on that.
Now,
Allure, Best of Beauty.
let me ask you this in hindsight, right? So in hindsight, when we look at it, if you guys would have had that, the towel, right? So if you would have done the towel, would you have funded your own company?
Yeah.
It's a good question.
I mean, probably.
Yeah, I mean,
Pretty much.
but I
I
don't.
mean, the towel. When we were geeking out in my house, we didn't have a lab, we didn't have an office or anywhere to work on this dryer. It was Jonathan, myself, and a gentleman named Zach Ratner, who we have to give a shout out to. He was one of the original team members that helped us bring this dryer to life. And we were studying. None of these guys knew what a hairdryer was or anything about hair. And so Zach, who's an engineer, he really wanted to understand, what is a hairdryer? What is it doing to the hair? What is it doing to dry the moisture in the hair? So as we were going through the study, we're recognizing that hair dryers damage your hair. And so we were drying with a towel, and then we started to talk about, is there a better way to prepare the hair to dry it quicker or dry it more before you use a hairdryer? Because the hairdryer is not going to run for as long as a plug-in dryer. It has its limitations. So that's where the idea for this hair towel came up. And that's the beauty of having partners that don't come from the beauty industry, that come from engineering backgrounds, that they really want to toil into, well, what is a microfiber hair towel? Let's recreate the microfiber. And so we created a NanoWeave material. And so that's really the towel just blossomed. But going back to your question about, that's the towel has done extremely well, but we didn't know what we were getting into, I guess, to answer that question. It was sort of an afterthought, but it really helped us. It really helped us along the way. And we're very proud of it, man. I mean, it's the product's kicking ass. As Jonathan mentioned, retailers, we have done collaborations with companies like Bluemercury, who did their own custom color. You may know this company. So Paul Mitchell, when they launched their clean beauty brand in Ulta last year, they did a collaboration with us, which was so cool. I mean, like this was an honor for knowing these guys my whole life and doing this my whole career. Jonathan and I are pretty proud to share our names on a product with them. So yeah, it's done well, but we if in hindsight, if we knew what we know now, yeah, we would have probably done the towel first, but that's kind of what happens, serendipitously along the way.
I think it's great because, and it's amazing that you brought it up, Jonathan, because it was the next question I was going to ask is about the towel, because a lot of times the most genius thing, I mean, there's very few times where people hit 2 home runs in a row, and you guys have. You've hit a home run with creating the first cordless blow dryer, which literally everybody is waiting for, and then with the towel part of it, but talk to us too about the ability to be able to bounce back. And, like artists talk about this, musicians talk about this. I just had the bassist from Switchfoot on quite a few episodes ago. And he was saying that he loved this album and the studio hated it. And the studio was like, we're not even going to put it out. And that's the one he won the Grammy with. So talk to us about the resilience and how you're able to prepare your mind when everything else, maybe the world is saying no, but it's a home run.
Yeah, well, first of all, when we raised the money for the dryer, we kind of had an obligation to our investors to start building a dryer, right? So we knew we had to do that, but this opportunity came along. And we did get some pushback. In fact, some of the investors are like, what are you doing? A towel? Like what? But we believed in a couple of things. Number one, it was really important for us to get some revenue. Number two, that we could execute on this and prove out that we're able to get a product to market, that we're able to be better, build a brand, and get all the amazing learning you get from actually getting something made, putting it on a cargo ship, bringing it into the US, starting to sell it. Building that whole infrastructure has been incredibly important because now it's in place for the dryer, and we can sort of drop it into an already existing and functioning website, an already existing and functioning marketing and social team, PR team. And our brand was established a couple of years prior to our hairdryer launching this summer. The other thing is it gave us revenue to float through a very difficult time. There was a period of time when we were being courted. We were working on our deal, our term sheet for this Series A investment, and it took forever. They put us in the hands of these attorneys, and it just went back and forth, and months were rolling by, and we were burning down our precious resources, our cash. But luckily, we had a huge holiday season. This was in the Christmas of 2019, and we were like, what the heck? I mean, we sold almost everything we had, and that really allowed us to kind of get through it, keep the lights on. So the investors now, we kind of tease them. Some of the ones that were kind of like, what's up with the towel? Like, come on, man, you guys are supposed to be making a hairdryer. They're looking at us like we were, we know what we're doing. So yeah, that was a little bit of poetic justice there.
Ryan, can you talk to us about the feeling? Both of you guys have families too, am I correct?
Yeah.
Okay. Ryan, can you talk to us about this? And then Jonathan, we'll come back to you. There's a cool story with Elon Musk, which when in reading his book, he got to a point, he was 2 weeks out. He was 2 weeks out and Google was courting him, and Google was about to consume Tesla. He got to the point where he went to all his people and he said, guys, we have 2 weeks. And he was about to move back in with move in with his mother-in-law. And they had nothing. And he went to the sales team and he said, guys, we have 2 weeks to be able to make this work. But Google was already doing their due diligence on his company, and they were in process of buying it. And in those 2 weeks, he hyped up his salespeople to be able to get to a point where Tesla is now what it is today, but it could have been Google's and might have been shelved at the time.
Right.
Can you talk to us about the emotional? When I was reading his book, he was talking about the emotions that he was going through, the self-doubt, the things that he was questioning himself. Can you both talk to us about that part? Because most people don't talk about the valley, right? They always talk about the, like, I hit it and I got it and I'm good. But most of the population is living in the valley, and they're like, do you guys ever experience that? Talk to us about the emotions in the valley.
Sure. I mean, it's, Jonathan, we could go on for days with this question, because it's, creating a one-of-a-kind product. We jumped on this thing with all this excitement, and we're going to do this, and we're tight-lipped and having people sign NDAs, but when there was a point when we started developing this, and I mentioned Zach Ratner. We went and met with this group of engineers, and we were already in. We'd already raised 2 rounds, or I think it was after the first round, or maybe after the second round, and we went to this sort of seminar of engineers, and we had this prototype, and Zach and Jonathan and I are working on these. We're basically tearing dryers apart, and we were making them, and we were making dryers at my house. We had an outside fireplace. And we were buying batteries from like hobby shops that fit the mold and connecting them to a heating element that we tore off another dryer, and we had these PCBs, and Zach had, all this technical stuff that we were doing at my home, where, both my home and Jonathan's home, we were testing all this stuff, and, we'd get excited about it, but then it wouldn't perform, and we'd have to go back to the drawing board, and we'd see what went wrong here. And, I knew what was required in terms of heat and airflow and so forth. So I'm kind of steering away from your question, but it kind of leads back to, we had some momentum. We thought we were really close, and we went to this seminar, and we ended up meeting with this team of engineers, and they kind of sat down, this group of really smart guys and gals, and they kind of did a one-day study, and we all researched it, and they came back and they said, you know what, this is impossible. It's impossible. And my blood ran cold. I mean, my entire, everything just ran out of me. I'm like, this is not, really? Come on. I mean, they said, no, it's too much power. It is impossible. And I remember walking out of there, I was in the driveway with Zach, and he said, no, he said, we've got this. We can do this. And I mean, that's just one example that pops in my mind. And, as Jonathan mentioned, it's not just the trying to develop this product, but, there's always peaks and valleys, and, battery, supply chain in the world right now, and there's such a high demand for batteries. We had developed a prototype that was like, that's it. That's the one. I mean, it was this duct tape together prototype, but it was the guts and everything inside of it was the world's first functioning.
Harry, hit that.
What's that?
I'm sharing the video.
So literally these ugly first prototypes, which I think are some of the most beautiful things ever, having that first prototype in hand, and we did it. And then we went back over to our manufacturer and engineers to start to develop it. They were developing it with a particular cell, and these cells are really hard to come by. And so we started to, design and engineer, and everything we were ready to go. The entire supply of that particular cell was bought out by a company called Stihl. They're a big power tool company. So that was a huge blow. So basically we had, 9 months of work, and they just ripped the rug out from under us, and it was like back to the drawing board. So, I mean, these stories I love to tell, and like what you say about Elon Musk, I mean, the challenges of what we've been through, we could go on for days, and I'm sure Jonathan's thinking of 20 other stories to tell. I'll let you roll, but yeah, I mean, those two really stick out in my mind, but we endured. We fought, and we didn't let one battery didn't work out as it turned out. Working with some really good guys. I mean, we've surrounded ourselves with incredible people, both here and abroad, and we found another cell, and it's a Murata cell that was formerly owned by Sony, and so yeah, those are two of the.
Yeah.
Talk to us about this real quickly, Ryan, before we go to Jonathan.
Yeah.
Like, there's the part of us as entrepreneurs that, and I saw you look like Back to the Future. You look like everyone that's watching the show. It was great to be able to see it. You were Dr. Emmett Brown walking around with that contraption, right? And you're believing, you're so excited, and everyone else is like, "What the heck is this thing?"
Yeah.
But there's the conversation that we as entrepreneurs have with ourselves, and we beat up on ourselves and things like that. Talk to us though, the conversations that you're having with your family, because these are the hardest ones, the conversations with your wife, the conversations
Yeah.
with your kids. And like, can you let us into that aspect?
Yeah. Yeah. My family's been so supportive. My wife, Carrie, and my two kids, my son, Barrett, he's in college up at Cal Poly, and my daughter's a senior in high school, Mia. They've been there, and Jonathan's kids have also been there throughout this entire process. And it kind of chokes me up a little bit because they've seen what I've gone through and what we've gone through as a team. But what's amazing is they've seen it. And I think, the education that they've got from, taking this idea and seeing it unfold and prototypes, and Zach and Jonathan and I with wires and batteries that are blowing up the backyard. I mean, all those things to where we are today is really sort of, helped shape my kids. I mean, amazingly, and Jonathan's kids. And my wife has been so supportive throughout this whole thing. And she's, the part of that I told you about having to resign from a company that I helped build for the last 25 years was really hard. I mean, it was painful, and it was also family. I wasn't just resigning from a corporate job that I didn't have, family ties with. This was walking away from a business that my dad really grew, and all those tough conversations with my dad, like he's going, "Hey buddy, you're not able to give us 100% here. And it sounds like you're giving close to 100% to Volo." So, we stepped down our salary, and I sort of stepped away, and we had no salary. So that was, you go back to family. I've been very transparent about the whole thing, and my wife's been super supportive, and it's made us stronger, and so when we look at this dryer or the hair towels or the success that we're having, I mean, that story, I think, really needs to, I want people to hear that story, and all those entrepreneurs out there, or people that are our customers or are interested in buying the dryer or have the dryer. It's more than just a hair dryer. It's a whole lifetime, of blood, sweat, tears, and right here, and I mean that. I mean, that's kind of, that's my short story.
Talk to us, Jonathan, about that self-talk, right? I mean, you're a pretty confident guy. You lift more than Ryan at the gym. We already established that from a very early time.
No doubt.
But talk to us about the self-talk that, that you go through, and you go through as a person that's going out there. Because, I mean, you're not like making a product in a space that exists. You're creating a whole new space.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it takes courage. It takes a little bit of not knowing what you don't know, because maybe if you knew it all, if we were fully aware of how difficult this would be, we might not do it. But I do want to kind of tell a couple stories along the lines of what Ryan was talking about, along the lines of the family, and along the lines of what that Elon Musk story. I remember there was a point where we were starting to run out of money, and we were taking a real small stipend, like just a small amount of money, just to kind of like help out. And I had finished up my divorce, and we just sold our house. So I got a bunch of money, and I was basically like, all right, well, we got to fuel our business. So I'm going to live off of my savings. Because I believe in this, and I'm just going to keep going, because this is a business that's going to go somewhere. And that took a real gut check, right? And both of us have made those kinds of sacrifices where, you have to really just fuel your own existence so you can make sure the business stays alive. Around that same time, though, I also had a car. It was 150,000 miles. This thing had a little bit of a smell to it from all the surfboard, the salt water and stuff from my surfboards in there over the years, and just my kids hated it. They're just like, "Dad, you need to get a new car. Come on, man. We hate driving in this car." And I said, "Guys, I'll get a new car when I start getting a paycheck and we close this round of funding with Volo." And months and months were going by, and every time we'd get in the car, they'd moan about the
I remember the smell. It was like It was like you left a wet wetsuit in there
Yeah,
for
it was kind of,
days.
yeah, it was, yeah. I even tried using one of those ionizer things to get rid of it. Anyway, we finally closed this round, and a month later, I bought a brand new Jeep. And my kids to this day kind of talk about how we had to wait. We had to wait
Yeah.
to, to make that, that transition or that sacrifice. And I think that teaches the kids a lot. The other thing is all of our kids, and also our friends' kids, have worked for Volo. They've been in the
Yeah.
warehouse. They've labeled tubes, by the hundreds and packed them up. And we were on the Today Show a few years ago, and we had to ship out 6,300 packages in a week. So 63, like 10,000 towels. 10,000 towels. And so we were in Ryan's garage, and we literally had his horse trailer, and we're filling it up, his horse trailer with packages of tubes. And all the friends and all the neighbors and everybody was coming by and putting them in bags and labeling them. And our kids, and one of my buddies, Ryan Paul, his son's applying to colleges, and he's writing his essays, and he's talking about those experiences. And he asked me for a letter of recommendation for going into college, for the colleges he's applying to, because of these experiences of that is such a huge other thing that is so rewarding about the business is how it's really been a boon to our community, the people that have surrounded us and are helping us along the way.
Can you guys talk to, because I think a lot of times when a person, maybe they have a concept for a product and then they think in their head, they get the concept and then they're like, oh, I could bring it to market. Can you talk to us about some of the challenges of actually, things blowing up? Like when you're on the Today Show, you talk to us about the logistical challenges when someone does want the product, and which everyone wants the blow dryer. Talk to us about the challenges of success.
Sure. I mean, I'll start with one that we're facing right now. We've got people in other countries that are dying to buy the dryer, but our dryer is very powerful, and as such, it's got a very powerful battery that is over a certain kilowatt hours that's considered a hazardous material. And it's all kinds of crazy regulations, and the box has to have these labels, and you have to do all kinds of stuff. And it's been a real pain. We want to sell to these people. They're dying to buy it. But to go through all that regulation, certification, right kind of packaging, right kind of boxes, working with UPS has been difficult. It's been really hard to do that. And it's expensive too.
Yeah, and so, I mean, as you know, supply chain as well. I mean, you talk about challenges of come on, shipping, or freight. But when there was a point when we were ready to go to build these dryers, and there was one little component in the charger that they could not source, and it basically just delayed the whole. And it's like a 2-cent part that set us back.
Yeah.
Talk to the people out there though with the supply chain, because I remember I ordered an electric bike for my wife, and I'm very patient. I understand. It's amazing. It's called Wicked Thumb. The guy is tremendous. He's out of Texas. Some of the baddest bikes on the planet.
Really cool.
But I've been waiting, and I email him, and I'm always like, hey, it's a nice day. And there's a couple times where I got to a point of like, yo, bro, like, I don't give a damn. You need to swim out to that ship and pull it off the ship because my wife needs her bike. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah.
Talk to the consumers out there that are waiting on something from you that they don't know. Like, educate us and help us to understand the things that we don't see and the pains that we don't see that you guys go through to be able to even get us the product in the first place.
Yeah, I mean, it used to cost about $3,500 to ship a container. Now it's $15,000. Yeah, and now
so that basically puts everything else in perspective. Those numbers right there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the Port of LA, normally stuff flies through there in under a week. Right at this moment, there's 70 ships. If you drive through that part of Long Beach, you'll see them out there. And in fact, that pipeline, I think that the pipeline that busted was because an anchor from one of those guys dropped in and nailed it. But yeah, it's a real deal. Those longshoremen are just overwhelmed. And so that is a real real pain.
And that's just one part of it. I mean, there's all the components and logistics, no matter where you are in the U.S. and abroad. It's COVID. Blame everything on COVID, but it affected the supply chain of everything, and everything just went sideways, and then things got more expensive, and unfortunately, so there's the pains of talking with our manufacturers about these price increases, and trying to, how do we keep this down, and so forth. And so
So talk to the consumer out there too, because before we even started, I was telling you guys, like, once people get to meet you, like once people get to meet Jonathan and meet you, Ryan, like through our text, we've just been talking through text. You guys are such incredible human beings. Like, you're so gracious. You're always wanting to make sure that, like, do you have everything? Do you have this? Do you have that? And for me, anybody who touches you is going to be like, oh, you happen to have a dryer? Let me check it out. Let me do it. Why is it so important? And why is it so important to you? And speak to the consumer here, that they not only support the brand, not only in buying the dryer, but also in telling their friends about it. Why is that so important to a person who manufactures?
Well, obviously, a referral is the cheapest and best way to get a new customer, right? Because every other way, whether it's Facebook advertising or even somebody coming across it in a retail store, when a friend tells you that this is a good product and you should buy it, that's the goal of every business, right? Anybody who's selling a product or even a service is that referral, right? So we're really grateful that, especially the hair towel, like people, they just buy them as gifts. They give them out, like, and that's starting to pick up with the dryer as well. And that is, that's an amazing thing. And we're so grateful. And we like to reward our customers, our repeat customers in particular, by giving them extra coupons, discounts, whatever we got to do to make sure that they're feeling appreciated, because we are so grateful for them.
How about yourself, Ryan? Like, what does it mean? I mean, because for me, I remember at a point where in the salon business, we had salons for years. And in the salon business, I remember talking to a woman and for the first time telling her, it's really important that you buy your products here. And she was like,
yeah,
why? And I said, well, it's really important that you buy your products here because all the education that the hairdressers get comes from there. All of the front desk staff comes from there. The environment, the blow dryers from the ceiling that we have within, they come from there. The environment charge, the training, all these things, they come from you actually buying something from me that you buy anyway. And you know what she said to me? She looked at me and she was like, I never knew. I've been buying my shampoo down the street just because I didn't. Why is it so important, Ryan, for a person to buy a blow dryer from you?
Well, great question. And I can totally relate to that salon environment. And, when you're selling, you're not just doing a service, you need to sell so that you can put food on your table, or you need so that you can pay the bills in your salon, or keep the place clean and all this. So, I think what that goes to is story and what it relates to. And, as we have a small partnership with Paul Mitchell, with John Paul Mitchell Systems. I know you interviewed Jason Yates recently, and I know the whole Paul Mitchell system, they were really the forefront of getting behind the hairdressers and helping support them and educate. And I know you have history with Paul Mitchell and Jason, and kind of that salon atmosphere and sort of culture, and moving those products and selling and recommending. It's more than just the products, like you say. It's the people, it's the education, it's what's prescribed for you. And I think to sort of answer your question, for us is Jonathan and I want people to hear our story about what went into this product. I mean, first and foremost, we're not Dyson, we're not Conair. We're Jonathan and Ryan and a great small team of people that made this. I mean, this is incredible technology that two guys on a whim created and put almost 6 years of our life into. And so, kind of to the salon story, this is, speaking to, the person that that you influenced and said, oh, is that how it works? Well, I think our story is very compelling. And this wasn't an overnight deal. This was every single meticulous detail of every little thing that Jonathan and I could go on and on and on how challenging this was. But it was made with, not to be cliche or corny, but it was made with love, man. I mean, we put our hearts and souls into this product, and it works, and it works great. And the people that have it, and yes, it's a higher price point. I mean, we're offering discounts where you can get it around $400, which is the price of a Dyson that's sold, amazingly worldwide. But yeah, I think my long-winded answer there is to people to hear the story and understand what's gone into this product, and it's made with top quality engineers. We've worked with great engineers and great factories and manufacturers. It's completely safe. The packaging is super cool. It comes with a neoprene bag. I mean, I could go on and on about how wonderful all the details of the product are. But yeah, we want to get our message out there about where this thing comes from and how wonderful it is. So,
well, I think I think that's part is so important, man, because honestly, for me, 29 years in the business, and I just realized that honestly, if every single guest, and if you're out there and you're going to a salon, buy all your products from the salon, seriously. Yeah. And I'm not saying that I'm going to benefit from this, but you will see a better education. You will see a better environment. And when I'm talking about this part of it, is, looking at the product of what you guys have is absolutely phenomenal. There's no one that could touch it. I actually think it's underpriced. And the reason why I say that is because every single one of my guests does not bat an eye at a $500 blow dryer. Right. Doesn't at all. Yeah. But because they see, when you were talking about, when you were speaking about the Dyson or whatever it is, I had guests that for years and years and years and years would be like $100 for a blow dryer. Dyson hit $500, $400. Yeah. They didn't even bat an eye. I believe yours is underpriced and you're getting a deal at $450. They should get a coupon to be able to be at $450, right? Not it down to whatever, but you're generous in this. But I think what's so great about it is like, our listeners are if you're watching this, you see these two. They have families, they have kids, they're putting their heart into it. You are not buying a blow dryer. You're not buying a towel. What you're buying is Ryan and Jonathan's heart and soul inside of it. And on top of that, they're the best in the business of what they do. I just think that I think it's a home run. And I think that it's so incredible to be able to see and to be able to be, you said you launched in this summer. It's great to be able to have you guys on, because in a couple of years, we're going to go back to this interview and be like, yo, we were talking about when you first launched, brothers. Like, this is on that next level. It's incredible. Yeah. It's incredible. What message do you two want to send out to all the young dreamers out there that, have an idea that say, I really think this could solve a challenge, and you guys are solving a challenge? What would be that message to those kids out there?
Jonathan, want me to take that?
I'll start off. I mean, you have to really be passionate about whatever it is you're pursuing. And I mentioned that earlier. Whatever your idea is, if in the back of your mind, you're trying to just make a buck and you don't actually love the idea and actually want to use it yourself, I mean, that is a huge litmus test. Do you want this for yourself? Is this something you came up with to solve a problem in your life? If that answer is no, that's a red flag. And really, you need to be solving a problem, and you need to be passionate about it enough that you're going to sacrifice a huge chunk of your time and your life, because you're not going to make money for a while. I don't care what it is. It's going to take a while, and you're going to have to dig in really deep, and eventually you're going to have to make a really big decision and sacrifice and double down. And Ryan and I have both done that along the way several times. And if you don't have that level of commitment, there's no shame in, just go get a job, go get paid for your time. You'll probably make more money. But if you really believe in it, I mean, Ryan and I do this because we believe in it. We get a lot of satisfaction out of these, this slow grind, but every day we're moving forward. And if that's what fuels you and you're persistent enough to go through those valleys, eventually you're going to have that glory and be on top of the mountaintop.
How about yourself, Ryan?
Well, Jonathan, you kind of nailed that, but I would say, you covered a lot, but to be fearless too, and don't be afraid to reach out to somebody that's a high level executive, or you have to be fearless. You can't be afraid. I mean, if you want to succeed, there are no boundaries. I mean, I've reached out to so many people that I call and say, hey, this is what I'm doing, and the reception, like I mentioned, from Jerry Rubin to Michael Cafaro, who without those guys, I mean, they've been there, they've done that, and when they hear you're trying to innovate or disrupt an industry, I mean, these guys are both retired, they've been hugely successful, they've sold billions of dollars across the world, and here they are retired in their retirement homes, and they hear a call from Jonathan and I, and they're like, wow, we've always wanted to do this, but they never could, So when reaching out to these guys, they put us into, position to really help get this done. And then, the next, we reached out to Paul Mitchell, and Jason Yates has been a real champion for us. And, that's one thing I'd say is, reach out, don't be afraid, and be courageous. It's because you can't sit back on your laurels and just expect it to happen overnight.
Well, what I love about you guys is that you had the concept, right? You had the ingenuity to be able to figure it out. You have the work ethic to be able to get after it, and you have the heart and soul. That you're still human beings and you're connecting, on that level. I think it's amazing. Yeah. This is the whole reason why I started the podcast, guys, because my kids, right? I started them because of my kids, because I wanted to expose them to people like you that created a whole new industry. You guys realize that? Like you're Edison. Like you guys are in a place, and you guys might be like, no, that's not me, because I know you guys are humble, but I'm not humble for you because you're my friends, and you're it. Like you're creating something that's going to change everything. That's changing the game.
Thank you.
But I wanted to take my kids, and I wanted to expose them to you guys, icons like you guys in this world, because I wanted my kids to see that you're not superheroes. You're simply human beings. You have great attitudes. You have phenomenal work ethic. Maddox is 10 years old, just turned 10 years old. McKenna is 12 years old. Maddox marches to the beat of his own drum, and McKenna is the most heartfelt. She's, she loves everything. What advice would you give to Maddox and McKenna? And if you could use their names, it would be awesome.
Well, Jonathan, you got anything?
Yeah, I'll take a crack at this. First of all,
yeah,
Kelly, I have a 12-year-old daughter as well, so I'm sure we could trade some notes on that. But Maddox and McKenna, I would encourage you to spend some time, a little bit of time, every week, every month, even though you're young, think about the things that you love. And it could be as simple as Play-Doh or apple pie, but always kind of look at the world with a lens of what are the things that I truly am passionate about. And as you get a little bit older, as you get into your teenage years, think about, well, how can I get closer to those things that I'm passionate about? What are the things? I love music. I love surfing. I love math. I love math. How do I get closer to that? And then talk to your dad and say, hey, I'm really interested in this thing. How can I get more involved with that? How can I try that out? How can I figure out a way to get closer and do more of that? And the bigger picture here is you can do anything you want in your life, but the hardest part is figuring out what that thing is.
There you go.
So make a decision on, hey, this is something I love. And the greatest gift you can have in your life is to be passionate about a few things, or passionate about one thing enough that it doesn't matter what it is, the money will eventually come. It doesn't matter what it is. Don't worry about the money. Worry about what you love, because if you're doing what you love, you're never going to work a day in your life.
That's awesome. So Maddox and McKenna, first and foremost, listen to your dad. So Maddox and McKenna, I'm thinking about my son, Barrett, who at a young age, he struggled a bit in school. He struggled, with his grades, and he struggled with, classroom and tests and so forth. And there was a point where, we as parents were worried about him, and he was frustrated, and that kind of carried on for a while. And now he is at Cal Poly University in San Luis Obispo, which is a near impossible school to get into. And we're so proud of that guy. And he got through it. He endured. He got through tough times. And I know it's tough right now as a kid, especially with COVID and being indoors, and it's a changed world. But there's no reason to sit back and feel sorry for yourself or feel bad. I mean, I use my son as an example because he endured through some tough times, and we're real proud of him. And he's off to start his career. He's left the house. So yeah. But listen to your dad. He's a wise man.
So do me the favor right here, and I actually have never I've never done this on the podcast ever, because as I told you guys before, the podcast for me is about the people. It's not about the product, and you guys have done so amazing in that, being able to, you guys have given so much great information, and we've talked about the dryer and things like that, and which everyone on the planet needs to have. But you've talked about you guys' struggles and things like that. You guys have a core, right? A core group of people. We're going to get to them here in a second. But give me the 30-second commercial why somebody should have a Volo blow dryer.
Well, first and foremost, I would say this is a one of a kind. This is the world's first cordless hairdryer. What differentiates it, obviously, that it's cordless and the first, but it functions and it works and it has the right airflow and it has the right heat. And what we invented and patented is our quartz infrared technology, which is a radiant heat, which is literally no damage to your hair. It's a better method for drying your hair. Your hair dryer at home uses the same technology that's been around for hundreds of years. It was actually founded in the 1920s, so over 100 years. And that is a nichrome wire technology that's been around. It emits very damaging heat. So you're not just getting cordless, you're getting a better method for drying your hair. And it gives you the freedom to walk around your house. And then I'll pass it on to Jonathan. I could go ahead, help me with the commercial.
Yeah, so Kelly, I did put a slide up about that, but what is differentiated more than just the cordlessness is the fact that this is actually a better dryer. It dries your hair using infrared, as Ryan mentioned, and it's similar to when you step outside, right? And you feel the warmth of the sun, which is millions of miles away. Think about how efficient that transfer of heat is compared to a convection oven, right? And it actually will dry your hair at a lower temperature. It'll leave it feeling smoother, silkier, less frizz. It uses less power. So this is more than just the freedom to move away from the wall of your bathroom to other parts of your house, to the back of an Uber, to your private plane, Kelly, that you're always taking around, that G6. It is a better tool to dry your hair. And that's the message that I think people are really, it's putting them over the edge, right? The first they're attracted to the cordlessness, but then they're realizing it's actually a better way to dry your hair. It's safer and healthier. So we love that. And yeah, that's a 30-second, or maybe it was 45.
So do me the favor. We all of us have an inner circle. I have Maddox McKenna in Brooklyn. That's my wife and my two kids. I want you to, each one of you, get 30 seconds. Right? I want you to talk to your inner circle and tell them the things that they don't hear enough, because you've been busting your butt at this for the last 6 years. And sometimes you've had to miss things, or sometimes you haven't been as present. Talk to them right now and tell them the things that they need to hear that they haven't heard in a while.
Wow. Yeah, I'll start that, Jonathan. Yeah, it's been a lot of sacrifice, and I've missed a lot of baseball games and football games, and my daughter's an equestrian. She's in rodeo, and I've missed a lot of bail races. And I wanted to be a coach. I wanted to coach more as I was going through this process, and I wanted to be there for my kids and for my wife, because there's times where Jonathan and I have our illustrious Tuesday nights where we just disappear and we work till, 2 a.m. in the morning. And, I won't see my family. And it was a part of this sacrifice. And, I think that my kids know, and my wife, that was for good reason. And they supported me. And, there were difficult times when I couldn't be there and it hurt. And I know Jonathan's the same way. You can't be in two places at the same time. But I want them to know that, and I think they do know that, because we have family dinners every night, and I try to, as well, when I'm not super busy, but we have family dinners as often as we can. But yeah, I think they're pretty well aware of all the sacrifice that's gone into doing this. So.
Yeah, that's good stuff, Ryan. I mean, there's no doubt that not only has this been a time commitment, but it's also been very stressful. And there's times when, that stress piles up, and daddy is not always as patient as he could or should be. And so to my kids, I apologize, and I appreciate you guys being forgiving of that. The other thing is, we live in a pretty nice neighborhood, surrounded by lawyers and doctors and professionals that are chunking their careers up in a way that I'm sure that they recognize when they go to their friends' houses and get in their friends' cars for carpools and go to their houses for pool parties. And I think my kids recognize that what we're building is going to pay off. But in the meantime, they're kids, right? And they just look at it pretty simple, like, hey, Dad, when can you get a new car? Hey, Dad, when can you get a bigger house? But I think they also recognize that what we're doing is special, and it takes that sacrifice. And I think they're learning from that. It'll create a more humble adult, in my opinion, as they observe that in us. So I appreciate their patience with that aspect of this journey as well.
Well, I want to thank both of you guys for being on the podcast. It's a huge honor. And like I said, when we look back at this in a couple years, people are going to be like, yo, that was one of the first interviews right before it was about to, blow up. It's already blowing up right now. Every person should have this blow dryer. I'm so excited for it. I know we talked about it, and we were like, you had reached out and said, do you want to wait till next week? No, I wanted to record with you now. I don't have to have the blow dryer in my hand right now to know how truly special this is. This is what I've been waiting for 29 years. This is going to not only change the professional beauty industry, but it's going to change the way that the date nights happen. Because now, ladies, you're going to have a blow dryer that's not going to tear your hair to pieces. And when it doesn't tear your hair to pieces, you're not going to be mad at your man. It's not going to take you 5 hours to blow dry your hair, get all sweaty and nasty, and then get mad with your man and then miss out on date night. This is actually going to bring families together. This is going to make you happy as a woman and help you to make your man happy. So every man out there, what you should be doing is you should be going to VoloBeauty.com and getting your lady this dryer right now, because this is going to save your marriage. I tell you, I said this to every single one of my friends. I said, when you go to Valentine's Day, when you go to Christmas, when you go to birthday, come to me. The reason why I told them this is because most of the people out there are buying a necklace or a ring or a bracelet or all these things. And I said, buy them the gift of beauty. And they were like, that is the most insensitive thing. That's like buying your wife a vacuum cleaner. No, it ain't, bro. No, it ain't. No. Because I sit with your wives every 6 weeks, and every one of them complains because they don't have it. I tell you, if you want to make your marriage better, go to VoloBeauty.com right now and buy your woman a blow dryer. She will be on high for the rest of the year, if not a couple of them. So I want to thank you guys. I want to thank you guys for being on the show. I want to thank you for what you do. I want to thank you for creating a new industry. I want to thank you for being the Edisons in that space. And I want you to realize of how much of an inspiration you are to every single person out there that has an idea that says, I don't know if this will work. Well, you don't know until you go after it. And so you guys have been absolutely amazing. Now's the time. If you're listening or you're watching, click the links. You know what you're supposed to do. Click the links, check out our sponsors, do all the things that you know you need to do. And by the way, you need to share this with every single person that you possibly can, because these two individuals, you're not buying a blow dryer. You're buying into two incredible human beings who have poured their hearts and souls into a product that is going to change not only your life, but your marriage too. So I want to thank you guys again for that. You know, I don't ask for much, I don't ask for much from the audience, but what I am going to ask from the audience now is share this. Share this with every single person. You got some value, share it with everybody. Everybody needs to hear about Ryan and Jonathan, and they need to hear about VoloBeauty.com.
Hey,
That's
Kelly,
awesome.
I got to thank you. I got to thank you for this and your wonderful words. And I also want to thank your listeners. So we just created a discount code, Kelly100. Kelly100. You get $100 off the dryer. So go ahead and, you know, reward your guests with that. We really appreciate it so much. You're an amazing human, and we're so grateful to be on your show.
Well, you guys have been phenomenal, Ryan. I thank you for that. It is tell the listeners the link again, and we'll put it in the description. But tell us again on it.
Yeah, just go to our website. You go ahead and purchase your dryer. Go through the cart, and there'll be a place where you can put in a discount code, and it's just your name, buddy, Kelly, KELLY 100, and they will get $100 off immediately off their dryer.
Well, what I want you guys to realize, if you're listening right now, that just happened right then, because these are two human beings. They're two human beings with great hearts. We didn't talk about this before. This was not scripted. We are live right now on YouTube, and if you're watching, that just happened. But the link is going to be there for you. It's going to be living there for you. But again, I want to thank you guys so much, and you guys are officially off the hot seat.
Thanks, Kelly.